What's up, guys? This is Holland with the Wolverine.com, and we're back with another Wolverine live Q&A show. Appreciate you guys for joining me. Before we start tonight's show, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free. Liking this video, again, is free. It helps us get in front of other Michigan fans so we have even more questions in the chat box. And if you subscribe, that's also free. You get alerts every time we drop new videos. You had a breaking news video right away as soon as Barry McWhorter committed late last week. So again, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And also, if you want more Michigan recruiting information, make sure to head over to the Wolverine.com. Sign up today. It's just $1 for 2 months using the promo code UM1. That's $1 for 2 months over at the Wolverine.com. The recruiting's really heating up. Basketball season is about to heat up here as we get into March Madness. The football team's about to start practicing, so the team guys will have a ton of intel coming out of spring practices. So again, right now is the time to sign up. Use that promo code UM1. That's $1 for 2 months over at the Wolverine.com. All right, guys, so we'll get into the questions. And just a reminder, they are answered in the order in which they come in. So if you want to skip the line, you can hit that box with the dollar symbol. That is a super chat that allows you to skip the line, and that money goes directly to my travel budget so we can continue to see top recruits around the country. It was a really busy dead period. We had a chance to hit the road and see guys like Savion Hyder and Travis Johnson and Albert Hill. So again, if you want to skip the line, contribute to our travel budget, hit that box with the dollar symbol. If not, we will start with customer service, who is here bright and early at 3 p.m. And he says, what are our chances with Tristan Keys and Havon Finney? With Tristan Keys, Michigan needs an elite level wide receiver this cycle. And I've been a big supporter of Michigan should spend NIL on an elite wide receiver. I mean, you put together such a big NIL package for Bryce Underwood, so you want to protect your investment. I feel like Michigan's done that along the offensive line, landing Andrew Babalola and Ty Haywood last cycle. I feel like they're going to do that with running back, whether it's Javian Osborne or Savion Hyder or both. So wide receiver, man, I mean, I feel like the room just lacks that elite difference maker. Last cycle had a couple of intriguing big bodies in Jacob Washington and Jamar Browder. I think Andrew Marsh is as talented as a guy going into that room as there is currently in the room, but I wouldn't say he's, a five-star level guy. Jalen Pyle kind of fits the mold of wide receivers that Michigan has recruited in the past. So again, I think Michigan needs that elite five-star level wide receiver. Tristan Keys is obviously that. He's the number one wide receiver in the country. I had a chance to see him during Under Armour All-America Week in January. I mean, he fits the bill, 6'3", 185 pounds. I mean, a guy that can come in and be the go-to wide receiver for Bryce Underwood. I know you see Mississippi and Michigan doesn't land very many guys from that state, but remember, Ty Haywood was originally from Mississippi, and obviously NIL was a difference maker there. NIL can be a difference maker with Tristan Keys too, especially if he likes what he sees on his spring visit. Remember, Michigan didn't even make his top 12, and now they're set to get him on campus for a spring visit. So I think Michigan is serious about playing the NIL game with Tristan Keys. A spring visit is great because it gives him a chance to see the offense under new offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey. It gets Keys a chance to get around Bryce Underwood, to see him throw, to spend time getting to know him as well. So, yeah, I mean, Michigan's going to have some work to do with Tristan Keys, but if they put together a strong enough NIL package, nobody is out of the realm of possibilities. And then with Havon Finney, he's reclassed from 27 to 26, one of the premier corners in the country. Michigan in that top group, he, again, just reclassified. So we're still kind of gathering more information on him, but he is looking to make a visit this spring. He actually works with former Wolverine David Long, again, he's an LA guy, so would be a fantastic prospect to get on campus and further improve their stock with. Customer service back with another one. He says, why hasn't Michigan offered Oscar Rios yet? I thought there was interest. Yeah, I mean, there's still interest in Oscar Rios. Look, Michigan hasn't offered many 26 quarterbacks. They've really been focused on a select few while evaluating some others. I think Oscar's kind of in that next tier for them. Right now, they're really high, obviously, on Ryder Lyons. Brady Smigel is set to come in for a spring visit. Matt Ponatoski from Ohio is still high on the board. He's the other guy that they've offered. But outside of that, they haven't really made any moves with any other 26 quarterbacks. So I think they, again, are kind of keeping it to a small group, and they'll get a chance to reevaluate the quarterback position during the spring evaluation period when they can hit the road again and they can see these guys in pads throwing again. So, yeah, I think Oscar Rios is a really intriguing kid. Obviously, I like him more than Brady Smigel. To be honest, I think he has a ton of upside and would be a great take after Bryce Underwood, but it looks like they just want to do a little bit more evaluating there. Customer service says, why did you put in a prediction for Matt Ludwig? How do you feel about our chances of landing him? Obviously, feel really good about Michigan's chances. I put in a prediction because I feel like Michigan has the outright lead going into the spring visit period. He's set to make a multi-day spring visit. On top of that, Michigan is getting his final visit on June 20th. I think of the other finalists, Texas Tech is probably the other school that I'd be most concerned about. Georgia's obviously very much in the mix. There's a few others that are trying to work their way in. Notre Dame just offered today, but I think Michigan's just put in so many resources into this recruitment. He loves the tight end production. He's out of Montana, but he's originally from Idaho, and he told me he grew up watching Colston Loveland playing at the high school level, and Loveland's success at Michigan is definitely a positive in the Wolverines' favor. The commits have been recruiting him really hard as well. So, Ludwig doesn't plan to make a decision until the summer, but, I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan is able to push and seal the deal this spring. Customer service again says, if 5-star EJ Holland were to get in the end zone, demonstrate your touchdown celebration. I'd probably do like the Randy Moss celebration where he fake mooned people. So that would be pretty inappropriate for the YouTube channel. Customer service says, who do you think will be Michigan's next commitment? I'm not sure. I mean, I laid out a list of potential candidates. Michigan's going to work really hard on some of these key spring visitors. I think they're trending in the right direction for guys like Ludwig and Javian Osborne. They'd love to get CJ Sadler on board since he's the big in-state fish. With Bear McWhorter already committed, maybe it puts some pressure on some other interior offensive line prospects like a Marky Walbridge to maybe make a decision earlier than expected. But yeah, I mean, there's, definitely some candidates. I think a lot of guys are kind of waiting until summer, waiting until official visits, but spring visits always produce a few commitments. So I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan gets, 2 or 3 during the spring visit period. Customer service says, what are our chances with Felix Ojo? Michigan's definitely in the top group. They're set to get him in for an official visit. I mean, his stock is really on the rise ever since I saw him at the Under Armour camp in Dallas last month. Man, he's been a mover in the rankings. He's a 5-star now. He's ranked as the number 15 overall prospect. And I agree, man. You look at his frame, 6'7", 274 pounds. He's very athletic. He's long. He's a true dancing bear. I really liked what I saw from him at that Under Armour Dallas camp. He was probably the best recruit I saw live in February. I wouldn't be surprised if Felix Ojo ends up being better than Jackson Cantwell. Ojo might not command the same NIL dollars that Cantwell is currently commanding, but that could also change in the future. Michigan, again, has been very willing to invest NIL in the offensive line. You saw that last cycle. So I think Michigan has a legitimate shot. Ojo hasn't been to Ann Arbor since last summer. So it'd be great if they can find a way to maybe get him back in the spring before his OV in the summer. Customer service says, is it true there are some Gatlin Bear rumblings? Well, for those of you that don't remember Gatlin Bear, he obviously was a very highly touted wide receiver. He ended up committing to Oregon, ended up going on a mission. And when you go on a mission, you don't necessarily sign a binding document. So once your mission is over, you can basically sign with any school. But I haven't heard anything. I don't even know where Bear is at with his mission. Like, is he close to being done? Is he already done? Like, I feel like I lack a true sense of time once guys graduate. But yeah, I haven't really heard anything substantial. I mean, it'd be great if Michigan could make a move there. Customer service says, are there any rumblings of any wide receivers that Michigan could be looking at in the spring portal? I mean, obviously, guys haven't jumped in. I think they'll revisit Skylar Bell from UConn, and his situation with the credit should be sorted out. I know he kind of put out that announcement that he's staying with UConn and stuff, but I think that there's still something there that's worth monitoring. But other than that, we're going to have to wait and see which receivers actually jump in the portal. Ryan K says, when do you think Osborne will wrap things up? I love his tape and think he'll be crucial to the class. So Osborne doesn't plan on making a decision until the summer, but you never know what can happen during these spring visits, especially when guys are coming in for multiple days, which Osborne is. I think he'll be on campus for 3 days this month. And so that'll give Tony Alford a lot of time to close with his commitment. I think that Osborne would probably be smart to just jump in the class now instead of, posturing and maybe waiting to see what Savion Hyder does. I think Michigan's a clear leader. I think Michigan's done enough to win this recruitment. Why not just jump on board now and secure your spot? And if Savion still wants in, you work that out. But I think you kind of, if I'm Javian, I would strongly consider the spring commitment. The other summer visits he has locked in are Alabama, Miami, Georgia, SMU. So he definitely has some other options, but I just feel like, Michigan's checked all the boxes for him. Ben Rickett says, what is the most realistic pair for both running backs and tight ends that you think Michigan will land? I mean, I still think Savion Hyder and Javian Osborne is a possibility, especially, if you get Javian Osborne to shut things down in the spring. That's not going to affect Savion Hyder. I've exchanged messages with those around the Hyder recruitment throughout the last several days, and they've made it clear that even if Osborne commits in March or, this spring, it's not going to affect them. Savion is methodical in his plan. He thinks he's the number one running back in the country. He is the number one running back in the country. And, he's not really concerned with who commits to what school. He has his final four, which is Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, and Tennessee. Those are the four schools that he'll focus on, and he doesn't care about what other running backs do. So I could still see that duo happen if Osborne's okay with it. I think Savion would be okay with it. So, that's the dream pair. As far as tight ends, I'd love to see a Brock Harris, Matt Ludwig pairing. I think Brock is going to be a little bit of a tough pool, though. Michigan is definitely high on the list still for Brock. But if I were to say a little bit more of a realistic pair, would probably be Matt Ludwig and Mason Bonner. We haven't talked a lot about Mason Bonner. He's not currently ranked, but he's a guy that Michigan really loves. He just set his official visit for June 6th. He's a tall, athletic pass catcher. So I think that could certainly be the pair at tight end. Ryan K says, now that Michigan is considered an NIL powerhouse right up there with Texas and Oregon, do you think they will finally throw a huge investment into getting a top receiver? I wrote about that earlier in the week. I think that Michigan's exploring that option, even though everybody laughed and wanted to make jokes. There's a reason Sherrone Moore went to Mater Dei in January to, visit Chris Henry Jr. Chris Henry Jr. is making visits to other schools. So, I think they'll continue to explore the NIL route there. There's a reason that Tristan Keys left Michigan out of his top 12 and is suddenly set to make a visit this spring. I think Calvin Russell, who just named Michigan in his top 12 out of Miami, will be on campus at some point this spring, or at least that's the plan. So, yeah, I think it's getting a little bit of steam that Michigan could explore using NIL on an elite level receiver, as they should. I think this is the time to do it. You've shifted to Chip Lindsey, who's supposed to bring a more balanced attack. You've landed Bryce Underwood. Now's the time to go get a big time wide receiver. I know you can make the argument, look, JJ won without an elite receiver. It's possible to do that, sure, but I want to make life easier on Bryce. I would have loved to have seen life be easier for JJ with Xavier Worthy. Can you imagine that duo? So I'd love to see Bryce and an elite receiver. Ben Rickett says, who do you think Michigan will have in the class for offensive line? Like I said, it's interesting. Bear McWhorter could pressure some of the other interior guys to make a decision. Michigan's very high up there for Marky Walbridge. They're high up there for Gregory Patrick. They are high up there for Carter Scruggs. They're high up there for Zayden Krempin. All these guys could end up on the interior. So, yeah, I do think that, the offensive line could have various pieces. If you were to ask me what my ideal offensive line would be, I would probably go, obviously Bear McWhorter is already committed. So I think Michigan signs McWhorter. So that's one. Obviously they need a big time tackle. I think they will make an NIL run at Cantwell or Ojo and maybe get one of those guys. So I'm going to say an NIL tackle. They'll invest in that for sure. And then, the swing guys are so interesting. I could see Carter Scruggs or Marky Walbridge or both. And then, like I said, I could also see Greg Patrick or Zayden Krempin or both. It'll really depend on who wants to take those spots first. And then you have guys that Michigan's high on in the interior as well that aren't talked about as much that are scheduled to come in for OVs. Jax Tanner is scheduled to come in for an official visit. Cannon Smith is scheduled to come in for an official visit. Obviously, you also have Kelvin Obalt from Idaho, who's coming in for a spring visit. I'd love to see him claim a tackle spot, maybe the right tackle spot, because you would be paying up for a left tackle in a Cantwell or an Ojo. So there are a lot of different options and a lot of different groups that could be mixed up front. Tyson Smith says, should we be concerned about Savion Hyder, or should we be concerned Savion Hyder doesn't have a spring visit set? No, Savion's been to his Final Four many times. I've been told that they want to limit spring visits. Savion's going through some things right now, so on a personal side, so they don't want to make trips to every school. They've seen Georgia recently. They've seen Michigan recently. So I think they are likely to get out. They already have a visit set with Tennessee. They're likely to get out to Ohio State, but I'm not concerned at all. Like I said, Savion's very methodical. He has a process. It's going to come down to official visits and conversations that take place during those official visits. And you might not see Savion come in until August or even the fall. When I visited him last month, he told me he could take it in the fall. So, Savion's going to take his time, and I don't really think it matters that he doesn't have a spring visit set. He's been to Michigan a lot recently. Tyson Smith says, is Ryder Lyons better than Brady Smigel? Yes, I have Brady. I'm sorry, I have Ryder ranked higher. I think Ryder's the number one quarterback in the country. The only reason that I wouldn't really bang the drum for that is because Ryder is taking a mission. And oftentimes when kids take missions, you don't know exactly how they're going to bounce back from that. So I think that's probably the biggest drawback from him. But when you turn the tape on, I mean, 6'2", 205, kind of similar measurables, similar build as JJ McCarthy. And the play style is a little similar too. I mean, the escapability, the ability to improvise, the ability to just make plays as a pure runner. I think that really shows that Lions can excel at a place like Michigan. He has great arm strength as well. He can chuck the ball down the field. I mean, Lions is a really, really exciting player under center. So he just set his spring visit with Michigan, as our Ethan McDowell first reported. He'll be on campus in April. So Michigan's a legitimate contender. I think Brady Smigel is more of a high floor guy, can be very serviceable, can manage the game, can be a good system fit, can be a safe bet for after Bryce Underwood and be a really good backup for Underwood. I think, Smigel's a guy that was ranked really high early on and will gradually drop in the rankings, kind of similar to Jaden Davis. So I would say I like Brady Smigel better than I did Jaden Davis. He has a better frame than Jaden did. Brady's a taller, bigger pocket passer, whereas Jaden Davis was obviously a smaller pocket passer who couldn't move. And Brady Smigel, I think, has a little bit more athleticism than Davis and definitely has a better frame. For me, I always like the high upside guys. That's just my personal preference. The other thing with Brady is he's older. So I want to say, is a full year older than Bryce Underwood or close to a full year older than Bryce Underwood, despite being in the 2026 class. But again, you're looking at more of a high floor guy, more of a very serviceable guy, an intelligent guy who's the son of a high school coach. So yeah, but I would take Ryder Lions there. Tyson Smith says, did you see Tank lose? He didn't lose. It was a draw. So, we won't discuss that. Butter XO says, how would you rank the top 27 quarterbacks Michigan is going after, like Elijah Haven, Peyton Houston, Trey Taylor, Garrett Nussmeier, Kavion Bryant? You can also include Ryder Lions. I haven't had a chance to really sit down and see all of them, to be completely honest with you. I have seen a few of these guys live. I just saw Peyton Houston and Kavion Bryant at the Under Armour camp in Dallas. I've seen Trey Taylor plenty of times, including this past month at the Sevens in Atlanta. Ryder Lyons is the guy I'm most familiar with in terms of, just watching a lot of his film recently because he is the top guy for Michigan this cycle. So, I think Ryder Lyons is the clear number one guy. In terms of the others, it's really early. It's tough to grade quarterbacks this early because you can always have, I feel like, we're back to the ragging on Jaden Davis podcast, but you can always have a situation like Jaden Davis where you're kind of deceived, where quarterbacks look ahead of their peers and then they don't progress as expected, right? Like, so when Jaden Davis, at this time of Jaden Davis's recruitment, I was really high on him. I thought he was like a top, like a 5-star level guy. And then obviously that opinion went off a cliff. So, that can happen a lot with quarterbacks. There are guys that are just ranked so high early on, and then they just kind of even out. So I hate to look at quarterbacks this early. I think Trey Taylor has really physically progressed. He's gotten a lot bigger. He's gotten taller. I think he's a really safe bet. Peyton Houston can definitely light it up, but he's very much on the short side. He's like 5'10", 5'11". Kavion Bryant is a little bit of a smaller kid as well, but he's very athletic, also a high-profile basketball recruit. And I just haven't seen much of Nussmeier or Haven, so I'm not going to spend too much time there. Butter XO says, Michigan is in it for a ton of top recruits in 26. What would you put the over under on the amount of 26 5-stars Michigan lands? Probably 2.5 is probably what I would set the line at. I think Michigan will invest in a couple of those NIL guys. 2 or 3 is what I would expect. So, if you're going to pay up big for NIL, it's going to be for a 5-star. So I think you can expect Michigan to be kind of in that range. So I would set the line at 2.5. All right, guys, before we continue, I want to make sure you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free, and also check out our sponsor, My Perfect Franchise. Are you a displaced corporate executive or wanting to put your career into your own hands? Or are you an experienced entrepreneur wanting to diversify? Well, Andy Luedecke can help. Andy is a huge college sports fan and franchise veteran, having owned multiple franchises and businesses. Using his expertise, he helps others find their American dream through a very thorough consultation and evaluation process. Call Andy, put your life and career in your own hands. Best of all, his services are 100% free for you to use. So what do you have to lose? Andy Luedecke with myperfectfranchise.net can help you find your dream franchise, whether you've always thought about owning a Chick-fil-A or a Dairy Queen or a Subway. You can do anything with Andy Luedecke, so make sure to give him a call at 404-973-9901 or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. By the way, I had Subway today and I hadn't had it in quite some time. And the new improved menu is better than it used to be. Like, I always thought Subway was trash, but they've kind of stepped up their game. I'm just saying the meatball sub wasn't bad at all. And you can own one with Andy Luedecke. All right. We are running low on time, guys. So remember, if you want to skip the line, hit that little box with the dollar symbol. That's a super chat. That'll elevate you, because we are about to go rapid fire in like 5 minutes. Customer service says, what are chances to land Chris Henry Jr. or Tristan Keys, or even both, with a little bit of help from EJ, because we know your relationships with the recruits make a difference. My relationships will not make a difference in these recruitments. These will strictly be NIL. It's really dependent on how much Michigan is willing to spend at the wide receiver position. Both Henry and Tristan Keys will be high NIL guys, so we'll see how those discussions go. Tom H says, over under, Michigan signs 5 players out of Virginia. I will say under, but they're obviously creating a ton of buzz out here in Virginia, which is great to see. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. So to get to 5, I would say Michigan would have to close with Savion Hyder. They'd have to land Jazeel Hart. And even though the on 3 RPM has Penn State ahead of Michigan, I think Michigan leads for Jazeel Hart. So, say you get Savion, say you get Jazeel, Michigan's in the top 5 for Markel Dabney, 3-star linebacker out of Richmond. So I think you can get him. That would put you at 3. My personal favorite linebacker, Matthew Canoe, big riser, went from unranked to on 300 prospect. I think Michigan's right up there with Penn State, originally from Ohio. I think they can get him. So that puts you at 4. And then, I think they can get Travis Johnson, obviously. On 300 wide receiver, he's been a big priority for the Wolverines. And, I would love to see Michigan close with them. So, yeah, maybe they can get to 5. And then Andre Clark, too. I mean, Andre just told me that Michigan's in his top 3s and on 300 defensive back out of Richmond. So that would put you over the 5. So that would be quite the haul out of the state of Virginia if they can close with out of all of those guys. Joey D says, how do we feel about Jackson Cantwell and Ryder Lyons? Obviously, we've spent a ton of time on Ryder Lyons. As our Ethan McDowell first reported, he is set to make his visit in April. I think Michigan's kind of in that top group of 5 or 6. Same with Cantwell. I think Michigan's in that top group of 5 or 6. He is set to make a spring visit this month. I think Cantwell maybe more than Ryder will command a lot of NIL. I think Michigan is definitely willing to have those discussions, and as long as they are, they will be a top contender. McMutton says, are there any running backs that are takes over Osborne, that is, besides Savion Hyder? I think those are the two clear top guys on the board, but Michigan's keeping some other running backs warm. Brian Bonner, on 300 running back out of California, is set to make a visit this spring. Deshaun Rideau just named Michigan in his top 6. He's looking to make a visit this spring. Amari Latimer, on 300 running back out of Georgia, remains a guy that's very highly interested in Michigan. But yeah, I mean, obviously Savion and Javion are the dream duo. Customer service says, would you take a recruiting analyst with the team if offered? You are the best in the game. Absolutely not. I would not ever want to work for a team. There are guys that have made the transition. Actually, our former secondary recruiter, Marshall Levinson, is now working at in the recruiting department for my alma mater, SMU. But I would never want to do that. That means that I wouldn't be able to get on the road to see recruits. I'd have to be in an office all day long. I'd have to wear a collared shirt. That is no bueno for me. Sean248 says, I heard rumors of Brady Smigel locking in an OV. Is there any truth to that? He has locked in a spring visit. As far as an official, I do not believe he's set one yet. But if he did set OV dates right now, Michigan would definitely get one. I think, Michigan really goes all in for Brady Smigel. I could easily see him in the class. I think right now it's probably Michigan, Washington, and UCLA. Vijay says, if Ryder lands with Michigan, would they take another 27? Looks like they have a lot of interest from 27 quarterbacks. It's an interesting question. I'll be curious to see how they approach it, but yeah, maybe. I mean, I think that could be a possibility, depending on who it is. But I think the focus would be obviously on getting Ryder first, and then figuring that out later. All right, we are past the half-hour mark, guys, so we are going rapid fire with our final questions. Customer service says, what are the chances we get Ojo and Cantwell? Do we have enough NIL funding for both? I mean, if Larry Ellison wants to go crazy, or I guess if Jolin wants to go crazy and Larry Ellison funds it, then sure. But I would say one is probably more realistic. Butter XO says, who are the top corners and safeties on Michigan's board? Off the top of my head, obviously, Albert Hill is the top guy at corner. There's some work to do with him. They're going to continue to try to flip Victor Singleton from Illinois, who's another top 100 corner out of Ohio. Jaziel Hart is very high on the corner board. Andre Clark is high on the corner board. At safety, they really like Jet Washington. They're looking to get him on campus again soon. They love Chase Calicut. He's set to make an OV on June 20th. Those are probably some of the more high-profile names that really come to mind immediately, but I know I'm probably missing quite a few. Noah Wolfenbarger says, is Michigan in a good spot with CJ Sadler? Yeah, CJ's always been quiet about his recruitment. He's going to take other visits. He's intrigued by some schools out west, like USC and Oregon. He was close to Dante Moore growing up, so, I'm sure Oregon will be a bit of a factor there. He's also liked some Southern schools like LSU and Florida and Auburn, but I think Michigan will do enough to win over CJ Sadler. Michigan is really investing heavily in keeping top guys at home. Jake Nowitzki says, does Brody Jennings stick with his commitment? I think Brody's saying all the right things. He is scheduled to come in for an unofficial visit on March 22nd. He's coming in for an OV on June 20th. But, man, I'm really concerned about the Southern schools. He has OV set with Alabama and Georgia. He recently visited Miami. He'll be at Florida this weekend. He's going to be at Florida State later this spring. So it's going to be tough to keep him. Customer service says, Is Michigan looking at any bigger safeties? They didn't get one last cycle. Yeah, Jet Washington is definitely a bigger, longer safety. He would fit that, I guess, role that they missed by not landing Jadon Blair. So Jet Washington would be the guy that immediately comes to mind, and Chase Calicut, another bigger, longer safety as well. Customer service also says, how big do you think the 26 class will be? Probably be a full class somewhere, around 25. Numbers always work themselves out. All right, guys, appreciate y'all for joining me tonight. Again, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free. Also, subscribe to the Wolverine.com. Use that promo code UM1. That's $1 for 2 months. Get premium insider information on everything recruiting, the team as spring practices start, and basketball as we get into March Madness. Again, use that promo code UM1. That's $1 for 2 months, and we will see you guys next week.